Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Chaitanya Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Revacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh boy. Oh, Hare Bo. Nice. As you all know, the last job I had, not enough for me to qualify for Social Security, is I was a soccer coach in a high school. So I'm good at strategy. So this is my strategy. I'll say something about mothers. It's Mother's Day. Maybe Gail can share how much fun it is to be a mother. I don't know. It's so funny. and then we'll do Nishringa Dev. I think at least half the class heard me speak this morning, but I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to go chapter by chapter and kind of summarize the points. And then the Lal Govinda band can do the Nishringa prayers and more kirtan. Then we have prasadam. So that's good. Okay, and how will we do that at the end? Okay, then that's great. Then we'll have an offering. It's wonderful. And what a great turnout today, you know? Yeah, what a great turnout. That's great. And, I yesterday came back from Bogota, Colombia. That was really great. And, everybody has their nature. My nature is, it's hard for me to focus the day after I travel. I don't know how Prabhupada did it, just the same schedule, and Tamal Krishnamurti, but I know how he did it. But, so there may be a few more jokes, but that name is really sticky now. That's it. I'll go into that. Otherwise, the name is either the Temptations or the Supreme. So you have your choice. Okay. Well, first, mothers, I spoke this morning. Of course, we have examples of great lady devotees who didn't have children and dedicated their life to Krishna in different ways, and everybody has a mother. But first I'll ask a question. Why is the cow worshipped in India? There's a reason why the cow is worshipped in India. The cow is worshipped in India because it gives everything and takes little. In some cultures, they won't understand. I remember, I forgot where I was talking about this, and I mentioned cow dung is one of the fuels in India. They're going, ooh, cow. but not when you're in India, when they put it in the patties and they dry it up, and then the, even the cow urine is medicinal, for liver disease. And cows they're so I remember in the winter when I stayed in Vrindavan in the winter, and there's hardly anybody there. My friend had a Goshala with the most beautiful cows, and I would go in the winter and just sit by the cows. In fact, this is an amazing thing. In RIT, Rensselaer Institute of Technology, they had a scientist that was analyzing a special a bacteria in cow dung that was a natural antidepressant. So because the cow gives everything, therefore it's honored as the mother. Right, Kishore Radha? Maybe you can give a little less sometimes. Okay. I told you the day after me traveling, I have to get philosophical here. But yeah, so, and therefore, I had this revelation when I studied just a little astrology, that the karaka or indicator for the mother was the moon and the fourth house. You got a strong fourth house, a strong moon. Of course, it's complicated astrology. It's not that simple. It indicates the mother, and it also indicates the mind. So I understood a very important point, that the mother had a lot to do with the mind. And a strong mind is the ability to control and express emotions. Right? You can open your heart, but you can also be disciplined. And a good example of that is Srila Radhanath Swami. He's like it almost seemed sentimental but brahmachari, and he can be very strong too, control. And I saw that. I was in the Krishna Balaram Mandir one day by the guest house, and I saw him walking by that gate that goes out to the guest house, and he was like this. I said, Mark, what are you doing? He said, I'm bringing my mother's ashes to the river. And he was like, like, so come with me. So I came to him, just me and him. He turned the corner, and there were 300 people following. So I saw that. And then, I understood that also. There was one devotee in the Krishna Balaram Mandir. He was the cook, the famous cook. But, he was a hunchback. So you can imagine growing up in America like that. You know what I'm saying? But how you adjust your mind. He's a great devotee cook, but then he became, he had to really collapse mentally, and they didn't know what to do with him in the temple. And people were coming. I said, "Don't preach to him. He knows the philosophy more than you know. Not a question of preaching." So I went to one of the leaders of the temple, who he was like never married, but still lived with his mother, and he was my age or older. They cared for the mother, and I said, "What, you guys, we have to get professional help. Don't you know that he's don't you know that he's depressed?" And he said, "Depressed? What is depressed? I've heard of depressed. I heard maybe in Bollywood some people get depressed." And I just saw, yeah, look at this, because of the mother, right? Of course, it's very complex. It's not just this, it's that. If the mother's not good, there's so many factors in life. I mean, it's one. But so I understood that, and therefore how important the nourishing influences are in one's early life. They're very important, the nourishing influences. Because what I did when I did that article on yoga psychology, well, is there therapy in the Vedas? You don't see therapists like in the Himalayas and like Lord Chaitanya's. We got to go to the therapist. Every other house is a therapist in Gaur Leela. No, because they had families. I mean, there's so many factors. This is simplistic. There's so many things can screw up. So many things can give. So it's complicated, but that factor is there, and and therefore that was such an important factor in society. The mother at home, and therefore it was the my mother and food, because the main way in which emotions are communicated, and this is so relevant for bhakti. I tell people that come to Brahma, you want to understand bhakti? Flowers and food. Because these are the main ways when you love someone, you know, like I love that those yogis in the kirtan, they want to show they're like really advanced. They sit there and everybody's chanting, dancing, you know. But love is expressed, and when it's expressed to please someone, and you please someone through the senses. But it's an emotional experience rather than a sensual experience, right? That's why home cooking is so much. I was dealing with this Indian guy that joined Krishna consciousness like many, many years ago, and he was out of his mind, really. Did I say something politically incorrect here? I got to be careful here. The jokes have some limit here. And he really had some problems. He came to India with us, and then he threw away his passport and stayed, and this whole thing. He came from an Indian family, but his parents were working both so hard that he only had food that was like pizzas and things that came in, never, because that that love is expressed that way and experienced that way through the taste, through the food. It's love, and when one is nourished that way, what happens is it puts impressions of hope in the consciousness. Impressions hope, so that when difficulties come, you don't do this mental thing down, 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 down. You just keep on following the thing down, 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 because you have like this well of hope impressions in there. Yeah. So okay, so the mother, we honor the mother today, and now Gail will speak about the joys of. We have fun today, Gail. Sorry. Oh, well, congratulations! And she's accompanying you. How nice is that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So now we'll do some Nishringa touch. So this morning I just thought, okay, I'll just go all over the place where it takes. So I said I had to do something a little different today. So we'll go. I'll just read the chapter and say something about the chapter and comment on the philosophical um, points on the chapter, which I. I doubt anybody get it, but I wouldn't have got if someone just throw it at me. But would anybody remember the title of the first chapter? I wouldn't have got it either. Of the seventh chapter, seventh canto. It was the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. So can anybody say how that's connected to, okay. How that's connected to the story? The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. How does that connect to the Nrsimha story? If you think carefully, this is good. I'm getting you to think, right? So what are some of the things in that story, right? Why is the story of Hiranyakashipu being told? It's being told for a specific reason. Okay, it starts in the sixth canto at the end, and what happens in the sixth canto at the end? Vritrasura, the demon, is killed by Indra by the benedictions of Vishnu. So now Marge Prickett is listening to it, and he comes up with a question. And the question is the Supreme Lord partial, right? And then, is the Supreme Lord equal to everyone? Is he partial? Because that partiality is generally based on the modes of material nature. I hate, I like. And the Supreme Lord is above the modes of material nature. So this kind of hate and like, right? It's not. So what's the story that's told? How the demon got liberated. One was, he killed, he favored Vishnu, and then the demon got liberated. So what story is told next? Story is told next is the Rajasuya sacrifice. And what happens in the Rajasuya sacrifice? Who, in any Indian function, one person is honored as senior because they want to recognize that mercy and knowledge is hierarchical. It comes from God down. So someone has to represent that. You go to when I used to go to the Gaudiya Math, if there was a function, they invite me, and it was a appearance day, a disappearance day. There would be all these senior sannyasis sitting, but one would have a little table with a cloth, a glass, and a flower. He was presiding over it. So there's also someone that presides over the function. You look at any Indian function, right, Govardhan? They have like the chief minister is the presiding, this person is presiding. They always have that, right? And so who did Yudhisthira pick as the chief honored senior? It's always the most senior person. Who did he pick? Krishna. And what was the problem? Well, in India, there's kind of like a little bit of a caste system. And Krishna is from the Vaishya class. Not only the Vaishya class, he's not even a banker. You see, there's four qualities in Vaishya class. There's banker, there's trading, there's agriculture, and there's cow protection. He's in the cow protection. He is a gwala. Have you ever seen a gwala in India? What is gwala? You know what a gwala is? Go wala. Wala is the person who does, right? He's a go wala. So why is it called gwala? Everybody say go wala really quickly, quickly, again and again. Gwala, right? So go wala is gwala. Go wala, go wala, go wala. You can't. It just comes out that way, right? Someone try to say it so it doesn't sound like go wala. Quickly, go wala, 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 go wala. It's gwala. The guys with the gumshoes. So Sishapal was so angry. Sishapal was so angry. He got, Kshatriya got up and he was envious of Krishna. And it mentions in the Bhagavatam, he was envious of Krishna from the very beginning of his life. It even mentioned when he was young, I think there's some relation to Krishna. When he was young, he would be with his friends and he would say, Krishna, but bad man. Krishna, no good. Krishna, no good. Very bad. It says it in the Bhagavatam. In broken language, he would criticize Krishna in broken language. He was so envious. So naturally what happens in the assembly, in this high aristocratic Indian culture, Krishna takes his Sudarshan chakra and cuts off his head. He cuts off his head. And what happens next? Yudhishthira watches, right, how the soul gets liberation. This whole thing is Krishna's equal to everyone. So, okay, here's the demon. He gets liberation. And then I think Yudhishthira, Narada Muni's there, he asked, how is this possible? And then what's told? The story of Hiranya Kashipu. And because who's Shishupal? It's the Jai, Vijay, then Kumbhakarna, and who? Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and then Shishupal and Dantarvaka, then Jagai, Madhai, Pape, Chila, Jagai. There's a Bengali song, and when it comes to they're the most sinful, it goes, Jagai, Madhai, Pape, Chila, Jagai. And then, then Dantarvaka and Shishupal, they get born as demons, many, many births. So that whole story of Jagai and Madhai is there to show how, what the origin was, etc. And then, of course, there's a philosophical point here of how powerful is the meditation of Krishna, that, and also the power of an emotional connection to an object, which is why bhakti is the topmost yoga. Yogi namapi sarve sham madhyatena taratmanam shadhavam. Why bhakti is the top yoga? Because there's an emotional, bhakti is the most consummate devotion. Devotion to God is the most consummate, the most absorbing emotion. For the yogis, it's by the intellect, but the bhakti is attached to that object. So eventually they can become the greatest meditators because there's an emotional connection. But it gives that famous verse, and it's the basis of one of the verses, the basis of Raganuga Bhakti, by all these emotions. Of course, what to speak if you love, but even Kamsa and Shishupal by hate. They couldn't stop thinking. Krishna, 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 Krishna. When my parents, my loving mother, my loving father, were worried about me going to Krishna consciousness, they tried to give me a higher taste. So they took me to a Broadway show. And it was the worst. I mean, I lost my caste and still I was hungry. Why couldn't it be like West Side Story, My Fair Lady, something of it was a Broadway show called Enter Laughing. You'll look it out. It was so boring. It was so boring. Look it up. It was so boring. Why did they take me to that? Bad strategy. But this is a story. So what happens when I'm waiting outside, waiting with my parents and Aunt Edna, the mother of Maseva Bharti? Maseva, yeah, Bharti. So what happened? All of a sudden we hear, and what happens? The Hare Krishna Kirtan party comes right by, right? Worse than that, my college roommate Haribo, welcome. Oh, great. Maybe mommy can have a chair out there in the corner someplace so she can sit with her. No, there must be another chair someplace. Okay, great. And worse than that, my eccentric college roommate, who I went to California and met devotees with, gave me an electric, ecstatic Hare Krishna hug. And how does this relate to what I'm talking about? Okay, it will be related. My father said, um, my father said, he said, I couldn't enjoy the show. All I could think of was Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So he got absorbed. So that was also like a very, there's so many philosophical there's so many philosophical points. There's so many philosophical points in this story, but that's one of them. And that's one of the bases of Raganuga Bhakti. So now, so what's chapter 2? Chapter 2 is Hiranyakashipu, king of the demons. So what happens in this chapter is, who did Vishnu kill? His brother. Kill my brother. You know, it's like, people know that Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu went to hardcore and they were skinheads. You kill my brother? So, a little humor today, right, Gail? So a few jokes are good. There's philosophy too, right? Interesting stuff. So that's the second chapter. And there's also philosophical points in that second chapter. So how does he get revenge? How does he get revenge? How did the demons get revenge against Vishnu? Yagyavai Vishnu. They persecute the Brahmins. When I was in Govardhan, I told this story. It was amazing. I'm sitting there, and Damodar Vinod, the partner of Champak, he asked me, "Mind I bring this person to this class? He's a great scholar." I said, "Okay." And this humble, in his 40s, this humble Brahmin sits there and listens to my class. And then after class, I ask him, anybody have any comments? And very humbly, he makes this comment. And it was unbelievable. The comment he made was unbelievable. I was doing something on the 19th and 20th chapter of the CC, and he quoted the last verse, and he was just like connecting everything. And then somehow or other, I have a way of prying. He's very humble. He doesn't want anyone to know his background. But his background was amazing. I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "That's very scholarly." He said, "Yes, I was trained in Sanskrit, like a particular traditional Sanskrit." Oh, that's nice. And was anybody in your family, a Sanskrit? Yes, my uncle. My uncle was very famous, Bipin Bihari, not the one from Bhakti Vinod. Then he told the whole story how when Prabhupada was in Mumbai, they all came lining up to see Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna was at the door and was giving everybody 3 minutes. So in the middle, the chief minister and the head of the mafia, there's no difference in India. The chief minister and the head of the mafia, especially in Mumbai. In Mumbai, if you mess with the wrong people, they blink their eyes and the whole city burns down. Bal Thackeray. This guy was, mess with them, blink the eye, the whole city burns down. So the guy comes, and the guy says, I'd like to see him. Your Guru Maharaj. Tamal Krishna said 3 minutes. He said, do you know who I am? You know, I am. I can finish you all. Tamal Krishna said 2 minutes. But then his uncle came. This is related to the story, you'll see. His uncle came, right? His uncle came. Prabhupada canceled all other meetings and spent the rest of the afternoon with his uncle, who was such a scholar. Hey, main man. Hey, great. Okay. Yeah. So he spent the rest of the time with his uncle, and then I pried it out of him. He was 15th or 18th generation from Govardhan Das, who was a personal associate of Raghunath Das Goswami. And in the 15th generation, or something like that, his family left Govardhan because Aurangzeb, the Hindu-hating king, made a declaration, I will kill all the Jamuna will turn red with their blood. And then they left, and they wound up in Mumbai. And then, he went to school and he stayed in London. But so they destroyed the Brahminical culture. That's the first thing the demons want to do. Get rid of the cows and get rid of those who are thoughtful. So that was the second chapter. Okay, we're doing pretty good. This is not a bad strategy, right? And then the third chapter, Hiranyakashipu becomes immortal, right? So now the whole thing, it's interesting too, because Hiranyakashipu goes to the funeral of his brother and preaches philosophy on the basis of the Vedas. So even their demons had a little culture. And you know how Kali Yuga enters into the world according to the Bhagavatam? How Kali Yuga enters in the world according to the Bhagavatam? When Shamaka Rishi was meditating and Maharaj Prika came on and said, can I have a glass of water? And he was sitting there meditating, so he couldn't hear it. But when you're thirsty, because he was out there hunting, he thought he was being insulted as the king. So he went out and he saw a snake on the ground, took his bow, picked up the dead snake, and put a garland on. Shringi became thing, and he cursed Maharaj Pricket. So that's how Kali Yuga enters, when those in power have no culture. That's how Kali Yuga enters. This was another age where even the demons had culture. So he told, Phil, he pacified them. Then he said, I will get revenge. And to get revenge, I need power, and I will perform, I told you, sacrifice. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that there's a relationship between sacrifice. The world is to encourage sacrifice because we come in this world, icha dvesha, desire. We want things, we hate others that are in our way. And without some kind of religion, there's no social organization. Something that I have to do, sacrifice. If there's no, then it's just animal society without sacrifice. Nayam lokos tiyagyasya kutanya kurusatana. Without sacrifice, no happiness. So it works that way. That's why, Prabhupada sometimes credit with the kirtan and bringing the rain, some sacrifice. Sahayagya prajashrishva parovacha prajapati anena pasavishyadvam esha vo swishta kamaduk. I sent forth men in it with sacrifice, and by this, materially and spiritually, you'll be happy. So he performed sacrifice. And I wrote, let's see what the philosophical points I wrote for this chapter. This is in chapter 2. Okay. And this is the chapter where he asked the benediction. After the Brahma, he has to follow. If he doesn't follow, then people will lose faith. So he did the procedure, and he did such a procedure that he could get a benediction. People, they know this. People can perform great sacrifices and get great power. Right, Connor? What's the name of your friend in Barsana?
Radha Mohan.
Radha Mohan. And what was his gig?
He's starting Dhandavat for 270 times around Govardhan Hill.
He's powerful, right? And what tattoo did you give him?
Radharani.
On his chest, right? You don't know. Kana has a lot of people he knows in Govardhan. In fact, he did these tattoos, and people were like piling around him, and he did all the tattoos of people in big crowds. So then we went to this thing with him. We're walking back, and I'm the big barrage. I've been there for 50 years. And rickshaw driver saying, Kana, Kana. Say, Kana, Kana, come up. I don't want to pay for the rickshaw. We're going, no, for free, Kana, Kana. He's powerful, though, right? But he performed other austerities before, right?
Yeah.
What other austerities?
He walked to Bandrinath.
Yeah. So if you see a sadhu with a beautiful Radha Krishna on the chest, I was a little crushed. I mean, why this Kana? He comes for one day, does tattoos. Everyone is like, he's known all around Govardhan. I've been there for 50 years. And I have to beg a ride over his disciples. So he gets the benediction, and we know the story at the end. This, but you can't get liberation without changing consciousness. You can't get liberation without changing consciousness. Daiviyeshu gunamayi mama maya daratya mameviye prapajate mayam. It's divine energy. What does the energy of illusion? It follows your desire to not be what you are. We are servants of God. When you want to be the enjoyer and controller, you can only satisfy that in illusion. So the illusory potency is following your desire. Unless you change your desire, you can't conquer it. It's God's energy. And when you surrender, the energy is gone. When you surrender, the energy is gone. So it's a great story to illustrate that, because he couldn't kill by here, he couldn't kill by here, couldn't kill by here, couldn't kill this way, this way, this way, this way. Not outside, not inside, not by man, not by you, not by weapons, not by this, the sky, and this. You get all your bases covered here. Not by this. I got it now. You can't win. Can't win. And if he asks for not half man, half lion, not by half man, half lion, right? Then it would be half man, half lion, and skinhead. He would have got him on something, He could have added a little twist to this. So it's actually amazing. Wow. Okay, let's see the next. Okay, chapter 4. This is fun way, right? It's great. Okay, chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe, right? And this is one of the most important points in the whole story. So he terrorizes the universe, and okay, he let me see, chapter 4. Wow, this is a long one. Um, anyway, with that power, he conquers the heavens. He sits on Indra's throne, but he's still dissatisfied. Why is it? He conquered the throne? Why is he still dissatisfied? That is another reason. But there's somebody he got well. What? Well, that comes later. He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know yet. The reason he's dissatisfied, I took a note. It's kind of really interesting. The reason he's dissatisfied because he was the servant of his senses. Right? He was still the servant of his senses, right? Powerful, he couldn't control him. Trying to not. You ever see those guys? They try to control themselves with okay, now I'm getting flashbacks of Rocco Crigliano. I couldn't believe such great names they had. The two toughest guys in my neighborhood, Rocco Crigliano and Joe Stiff. And I remember when they costed us for money, they go, and we said something, they said, this guy doesn't love you, this guy doesn't love you, this guy doesn't love you, your mother doesn't love you, but sometimes your mother, No. The mind, mother, and food, these guys weren't fed. Okay, chapter 4. Yeah. And then, and this is, I think, the main point. When they come to Vishnu to defeat them, he says they're already defeated because of their offense. That in the universe, if you commit offense to Brahmins, to the Vaishnavas, to the cows, you're already defeated. That's the aparad, distance you from God, puts you in illusion. And this is such an important point because what I realize is, that's why I said I'm writing this book on Vaishnava behavior. And I really want to concentrate on that maybe after a week, is that it's very subtle. You have to be very careful, and there's effect. There's effect on it. And I remember one example, and this is in Mayapur, when they had like the different 11 Vyasasans in the temple. Then we went to Narasimha Maharaj and we said, there's 11 Vyasasans in the temple, the Acharyas. He said, that a problem? He said, there's so many Vyasas. He said, yes, it's a problem. He says, because soon there'll be so many Vyasasans in the temple, there won't be room for Vyas. So he, let me just get here where I was up to. Yeah. And there, I remember at one time, because Sridhar Maharaj, people going to Sridhar Maharaj because they needed some shelter. Prabhupada's godbrother. Prabhupada wanted to make him in charge of ISKCON. He's a great scholar. I met him once. I was blown away. He's such a saint. And then one person made fun of him, imitated him. I walked out of the temple, thank God. But soon after that, the deities were stolen off the altar and somebody attacked the altar. I knew that. Vaishnava aparad. Got to be very careful, very subtle, and how people avoid it if they want. Taramadye, Sarvashreshte, Nama Sankirtan, Nira Aparade Poya, Paya Premadan. 9 process devotional service. The best is chanting the holy name, and when done without offense, you can get Krishna praying. And then I think the question was, anyway, there's so many points, but it began to describe Prahlad, his son. And the qualities were, He was kind to everyone, like a menial servant to those above him, to the poor like a father, equal to he worshipped teachers. So he was rich, aristocratic, but he was rich. His father was sitting on Indra's throne. He had a lot of access, but he was a great devotee. And he had bhavas. He would laugh, sing. He loved the Lord like a father, crying, "My Lord, my Lord!" Okay, I got to give you a great my Lord story. You remember Mother Indrani, right? Indira, you remember Mother Indrani from Gita Nagari, that black lady? What? She was older. She's very pious. And I was kind of like her Siksha guru. And one day I saw her in Govardhan. And I said, "How you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm kind of crippled. I'm old. I can't go anyplace." I said, "Look, I got a bus. Get your godbrothers and god sisters." I took Bhakti Tirtha's godbrothers and god sisters in the bus. And then it rained. So I drove the bus right up to Govinda Kund, right? You know where that is, Govinda Kund. And Mother Indrani looked at Govardhan. You know what she did? She said, "My Lord, my Lord." I mean, it was so much Bob. You remember her, right? You remember? Yeah. She was amazing, right? "My Lord, my Lord." And then was amazing. We took them to Radhakund, right? And she couldn't walk. So two of her godbrothers were like carrying her to Radhakund. And, she couldn't really bathe. So they kind of went down the steps with her. And then it started to rain again. And a Brahmin came. And the Brahmin says, "When it rains in Radhakund, it rains Radhakund." So she had so Prahlad, he had all these bhavas, and Marge Yudhisthira, because he's listening from Narada Muni. How could such an affectionate son be tortured? So I'm only doing 7 chapters, and we're moving pretty quick. So then chapter 5 describes Prahlad and the problems he had in school, because he didn't listen to his teachers, because his teachers weren't giving Krishna consciousness. He was always engaged in worshiping Vishnu. And it was a problem. They tried to educate him in politics, economics, material activity. He didn't care for their instruction. He continued to be a pure devotee. And he didn't like this politics, friends and enemies, left wing, right wing, kill, beat. He never liked all that because he was spiritually inclined. He was equal to everyone. And one time, Hiranyakashipu inquired from his son what was the best thing he learned in school. He said, "This friends and enemy stuff, Father, is bogus." Well, I almost slipped here. I'm glad there was another word with a B. It was bogus. He said, tells his father, "Why don't you take sannyas, Dad, and go to the forest?" Oh my God, was he upset? Right? Right? Right, Copa? One of your kids comes into the house with vote Hillary Clinton. What? Kentucky, go to Kentucky, Dad. Actually, I think he would. So he heard from his son. He decided the boy is polluted. Advised the teacher to do better job with him, and they couldn't. Teachers were angry. They taught him, and they brought him back, and he sat on his father's lap, and he asked him, "What did you learn in school today? What did you learn in school today?" "Well, Gopa, there are many, many genders." Yeah. Okay, so they asked him. I'm trying to make it contemporary, but it was almost as bad. So he said, "What did you learn in school today?" And he said, "Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Padasevanam, Shravanam Kirtanam Smarnam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam Sakyam, Atmavedanam." That's what we learned in school today. And wow, he was angry. And they said, "Well, he doesn't listen to us." And he required from Prahlad, "Where did you get that Vishnu Bhakti?" And he said, "Matirna Krishna Parato Swabhava Mato Papadyeta Grihabatanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamisram Puna Punas Charvata Charvatanam." Yeah, those who are attached to family life do not develop Krishna consciousness, either personally or collectively. They suffer repeated birth and death in this material world and continue to chew the chew. Dad, you're in Maya. Prahlad, the duty of every man is to take shelter of a pure devotee and thus eligible for Krishna consciousness. Gopa, today I'm going to the protests at Columbia, and I'm taking over the library. That one you like, okay? Okay, okay. And then he threw Prahlad from his lap. He became a devotee who had killed his uncle, and he asked to kill him. And then he tried to kill him, but Prahlad was protected by Krishna, and he couldn't kill him. And then he said, "Okay." He told him. He's told him, "Okay, you better teach him better." So then we have this beautiful chapter that he instructs his schoolmates, and that's where that he just starts preaching in the school. Komaracharate pragyo dharman bhagavatamiha dulabam manasanjit tarapya dhruvam artadam. When you're young, you should be Krishna conscious. And one of the first books that came out was this pamphlet, The Teachings of Sri Prahlad. That was one of the first books in the Hare Krishna movement. It was like a pamphlet. The teachings are so great. So then that happens, and then and then the friends that how did you become so learned? He was so like the 5-year-old boy. He had such good stories, and he's got so many good points. And the classmates were all kind of affected. How did you learn so well? And then the next chapter is what Prahlad learned in the womb, because his mother, the husband, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, he went and he performed those austerities, right? So she was pregnant, and she got the shelter of Narada Muni's ashram, and she heard the Bhagavatam in the womb. And this is one of the examples I gave this morning. I told you that one of the examples that of the the universal applicability of Krishna consciousness. That even in the womb, there was some effect from Narada Muni. So that was there. Now what happens is, and now we're not going to surprise you, but Govinda Lal is going to come out as Hiranyakashipu. We're good. We're typecast, the meanest person we want for that role. Okay. Oh, you like that one, Jai Subhadra? Well, to play that role, we got to get Luke around to contaminate him. Okay, and then okay, then let's see if there are any philosophical points in that one, because I kind of what chapter was that? 6. Then they ask how Prahlad became enlightened, and he explains what he learned, and then the schoolmates, then they all become converted. They all become devotees. Right? Remember, Priya, you used to bring that girl. What was her name? Yeah, she used to come to all the programs. You still in touch with her? She's your best friend. She still likes Krishna a little bit? Good. Yeah. Anyway, even one, right? If you could have got the whole class, that would have been great. So then, Hiranyakashipu, most impotent, lowest of mankind, infuriates him. Where did you get your power? The source of my strength is the same as yours, Daddy. Give up friends and enemies. This is the talk of a man who's about to die. If God is, Daddy, God is everywhere. He's like is he in this? I want to pronounce it proper. Pillar. Sri Rupa, how do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce it? Pillar. Jai Subhadra, where are you? I want you to pronounce this for them. These people don't know English. How do you pronounce it? Pillar. Hey, they're laughing, but we're the only ones that know English properly. We're the only ones, right? Pillar. Pillar. Right, Jai Subhadra? Of course, Hiranyakashipu had a low birth, so he didn't speak proper English. So he said, "Is it in this pillar?" Is it in this pillar? Couldn't pronounce it properly. And then he slashed it, right? And that's that philosophical point. Where there is no circumference, the center is everywhere. God is a different dimension. Pantastu koti satavatra sampagamyo vayora tapi manaso puni. You can travel by the speed of mind for billions of years, and you can't get there. God is not confined to time and space. It's a different dimension. So whereas he's everywhere, where there is faith. So immediately he appeared, and then he killed Hiranyakashipu on Father's Day. like any good devotee son would do if his father was a demon. Cut off his head. Okay. We'll stop, but I just want to mention, if anyone can come, I really want the program next week to be successful, because I told you I like the point that with Gaur Parivar, we're a broader family, and I told you sectarian is keeping someone out artificially when they have something to give, or going into another organization with your own agenda. So I like to bring people who can do that. I'm also working with his disciple Chandrika, who's Dalia, and Nanda in Colombia. I stay with them, and they're really in that non-sectarian mood to spread Krishna consciousness. And we're going to try to do something there, also help support ISKCON, and he's supporting it. And so I met him in Govardhan because I'm working for him, Prem Priyojan Prabhu. So I met him, and I went to a class. He had, in the morning, he had this scholar, Achyutalal Bhatt, probably the greatest Bhagavatam scholar in line from Bhagavath. So we listened to that. And then I came back. That was the evening, I think. Then I came back the next morning. It's one. No, it was after that class. I took this lunch with him. We discussed this. He said he's coming. I said I'd like to organize a program. So I try sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then boom. I said that's it. No. So anybody that can come, it would be really great to come. Not only that, but he's actually probably one of the greatest scholars. I mean, he's an incredible scholar. He's from England, but he knows Sanskrit, Bengali, knows the Shastra intellect. So he's going to speak on the unique contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami. So we can also, Sri Rupa, we'll put that on. Anybody else want? I mean, he's really learned, super learned. So I think it's good for us in our Metro Mantra Sangha. We have the ability to kind of stretch the lines and be in the mood that he's coming, not for his own agenda. He has a Chaitanya Academy, but he's coming just to spread Krishna consciousness. Just like, like I do. I'll go anywhere. I won't go someplace with my own agenda for my program, because we just want to enlighten people. You got to be sensitive. The good fences make good neighbors too. I'm not denying that. But sometime. Okay, so if you're free, please come. It'll be real fun. If you make it, I don't know, it's 3. We'll start class by 3:30. You'll see. I know you'll try to get anywhere. There's a program. Okay, I'll speak then. Yvette, there's a program on the moon next week. Can you make it? Yeah, I'll be there, sure. Anyway, you're Maharaj, I'll come to the program. Okay, we'll see. It's Sunday late. I'm coming down there with Amala and Patrick. Okay, any reflections from the class? Kaveri, yes.
What I like also about this is you started with how he is equal to all.
Yeah.
Because I think that was like, well, he only defends the devata, but Prahlad is a demon from a demon family. But like Krishna said, like you're defined by guna and karma, by your mood and your actions. And even though technically he was a demon, he was a devotee by actions and mood.
Yeah. And same thing with Vitrasura. He was also a demon, but he was a great devotee. Yeah. And also Shishupal wasn't a great devotee, right? But because he thought of Krishna, he still got benediction. But then you go to the karma is, it's a karma, you're a devotee, you're a demon, you're a devotee, you're a demon. Interesting. Thank you. Anybody else have any reflections? Anything they liked in the class? Besides Rocco Crigliano, Braja Sundaradha, mentioned a little Italian name. Oh, wow. What?
I love good Italian names.
What's your mother's name?
Anna Maria.
Any other good Italian names in your family?
My dad, Pantaleo Pasquale.
Whoa. Can you say it again?
What did you say?
What's your father's name?
Pantaleo Pasquale.
That's high. Anybody have? Maybe I should do this all the time, like before the program, travel on the plane 7 hours, come back to Tota Gopinath's, eat a ton of chili, not have a good sod in the morning and be like in my comedic mood. But philosophy also gets mixed in. Anybody else? Yes, yeah, Jai Shirade, yeah.
The phrase that you already said during the class, and you said it again, is Krishna is where the faith is.
Krishna's what?
Where the faith is.
Yeah.
So it's very
It's inspiring.
inspiring, and it's also it makes me feel about the deities right away. Like as much faith you have in the deities, as much Krishna you have in them.
Exactly. Yes.
So beautiful.
Yeah. Krishna is there with our faith. That's the whole point of the deities. Yes. Anybody else have any reflections? Something they like? What?
Similar to Kade's thing,
Yeah.
How Krishna is equal to everyone.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of that Gita verse, as people.
Samaham sarvabhuteshu namedvestasthana priya. Right.
How you deal with me, I deal with you accordingly.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I'm equal to everyone. I'm equal to everyone. But if someone comes to me, then my devotee, they're in me. But yeah.
well, the prapadyante,
Yayata mam prapadyante tam satai. Jail, you're losing some of the thing. Get those verses down. Right? Okay. Okay. Anyone else with a question or reflection on the class? Okay. Boy, this is what a show them the room's packed. Show our people here, and there are people outside also. It's a great Mother's Day crowd today, right?
I just need to say that she has platform thing, but we got Michelangelo.
What? Wait. This is like Gail. A little in your what's good Italian name in your family?
Michelangelo.
What? That's your last?
That's my husband's father.
His last?
His father, Joseph's father.
His name what?
Michelangelo. And and Joseph, he's actually his born Giuseppe.
That's all. Michelangelo? That was his first name?
And over there, the surname was Capone.
You're nothing. What?
She said she has Michelangelo too.
My mom was born in Rome.
Yeah.
Her maiden name is Narasimha. Anna Maria Narasimha.
Oh,
And I have my uncle's Michelangelo.
oh.
Michelangelo Narasimha.
I don't want to.
I had an uncle named Moshe Levine. Are there any people listening to this? Look at the participants. You can't see?
I don't know.
Okay. They're usually at the bottom of something. Anyway, we're having so much fun today, right? Right, throughout some of those names, huh? Okay, Jai Subhadra, let's you do Sringabear? Yeah. Okay, the I'll go Vindabear. Let's see.